Iran has issued an arrest warrant for U.S. President Donald Trump over the drone strike that killed a top Iranian general in January. President Trump is one of 36 people Iran has issued arrest warrants for in relation to the death of the commander of the Islamic Revolution Guard Corps, Qasem Soleimani. But Iran's Attorney General Ali Al-Qasimi says President Trump is at the top of his wanted list and must be prosecuted as soon as his tenure ends. Iran has also asked Interpol to issue a red notice for 36 individuals. And joining me on the ward now from Washington to discuss this is a global affairs analyst, Calvin Dack. Good to have you join us, Calvin Dack. Now, what do you make of this latest development coming from Iran?
Well, I think that it serves several purposes for the Iranians. First, it's largely symbolic because I don't think that anybody actually believes that Donald Trump or any other U.S. president would be arrested while they're president or even after. This has been something that world leaders had to deal with before. We all remember that after George W. Bush left office, there were all these stories about where he possibly couldn't go on vacation around the world in case there were arrest warrants for allegations of war crimes and acts associated with the war in Iraq. So in the practical sense, it doesn't actually mean that Donald Trump's going to be arrested, but in a symbolic sense, it serves a domestic purpose for the Iranians because it helps reiterate their claim that Soleimani was a military figure and that was an extrajudicial killing where there wasn't an imminent threat. And if they're going to have their domestic population take it seriously, they have to act as if it's serious. And just one other purely political thing is, I think ironically, this helps Donald Trump in his reelection. And the reason is that nothing, as far as Iran and U.S. relations go, nothing could be better for Donald Trump to say that he has acted so strongly against Iran that they want to arrest him. That's red meat to his base. And so in that sense, it serves its purposes because it lets the people know who support him that he has done what he believes is right, and that's be tough.
So President Trump was widely criticized for the killing of Qasem Soleimani, especially by other foreign powers. Do you think that this development coming from Iran in terms of the arrest warrant for President Trump could vindicate him from all of this situation?
Well, I think where the Trump administration fell short is that they never followed through with backing up why the threat was imminent. No one in the United States doubted what had been done, or at least led by Soleimani, but the White House didn't really fully explain why the attack was imminent. What this also says for the United States and our role in the international community is what Iran is doing is basically using international systems like Interpol that they asked to issue the red alert, which they didn't, and this kind of global arrest warrant to point to U.S. hypocrisy that when it suits us, we use the international system for legitimacy, and when it doesn't, we don't recognize it. So I think that they're basically trying to, at the same time as talk to their domestic audiences, point out the U.S.'s hypocrisy.
Like you rightly said, Interpol refused to put, Interpol refused Iran's request for President Trump to be put on red notice. But do you think that, well, some of the zealous elements in other countries, because this red notice means that local authorities can make arrests on behalf of Iran. Do you think that some of the zealous elements in some countries could really carry this out?
I think that there would be some countries that could try, now not with the U.S. president, just because I don't think that that's, I don't think there's any country where a U.S. president would travel that they would want to do that. I do think that in general, this is a very serious threat for some world leaders. We know that there are some world leaders and former world leaders right now that don't travel to everywhere they want to go because of a fear of someone being overzealous and actually following through on an Interpol threat. So I do think the threat is real. I do think it's mostly symbolic, and it's important in what it shows to the world about the seriousness of alleged crimes that world leaders and other high figures are accused of.
All right, so do you also think that the Iran will follow through the request for President Trump to be arrested after his tenure ends, maybe first or second tenure, if he gets a second term?
I think that they will continue to pursue it in that they will make a public case about it and that they will bring it before the international community, through the Interpol system, or at least trying to, or through various international bodies. I do think that as time goes on, and particularly after Trump leaves office, be it after this year or later, that it does in some places give them more legitimacy because they say, like him or not, he was a leading military figure. But overall, I don't think it really changes the dynamic of the forces in the world that support Iran versus the forces that support the United States. I don't think this is changing anyone's mind really that much.
Global Affairs analyst Calvin Dack, thanks for talking to us.